there's that aspect of trying to balance, you know, on forget about these leaders who have been appointed by the president and all that. But then there's that aspect where we are dealing with leaders like Waititu who have been elected by the common mwananchi. And maybe there are a few of his people or his, people within his county that sort of feel like he's a good leader, you know, in a way, in as much as maybe there are all these cases coming about. And even if you go on Twitter, which is always the biggest ground where you'll get to get the sentiments of the common mwananchi, some of them sort of feel like their governor is doing well, you know. So how best do we get to balance when it comes to the question of elective rights, number one, when it comes to the question of that aspect of what we're talking about, politics and witch hunt, and that aspect of the fact that when it gets to the court level, it becomes hard to get to substantiate your evidence and say that moving forward, then we can lose these people confidently? Well,
one, you mentioned about judiciary.
Yeah.
Judiciary as it stands is again a den of corruption, where it is very difficult to actually achieve. If it was a judiciary with men of strong character, who actually you could go and, as they said, prove beyond reasonable doubt if somebody is a criminal and they'll be convicted,
it will be good to
then we would have a hope.
Yeah.
But if we have individuals who are open to money inducement, however much we put expectation there, and this happens when they are underpaid.
Right.
And then look at the prosecutors themselves. He just mentioned the other day he read a charge sheet of how many, was it around 30 or how many of them being arrested? And all these individuals were coming with battery of lawyers. Maybe one might be having one or two lawyers.
Surprisingly.
And that tells you the amount of research they're all going to put in this one case. And the other side of prosecution might be having one or three prosecutors who are studying these cases. But probably that is not just the only case they are studying. Right. You'll find they have like maybe 26 or 20 cases that they are handling or prosecuting within a day. So, and also the level of remuneration these prosecutors are subjected to. If they are paid peanuts and poorly facilitated, and somebody is coming with $1 million or billions just to buy their freedom, this creates an environment for manipulation of justice. So even if you wanted to show me that you are intending, unless it's just a political gimmick that is trying to, showcase that, I'm fighting corruption, but you need to fight it concretely by enabling the institutions that are fighting it. If you are poorly paying the judge, remember in this budgetary term, judiciary was underfunded. Yes. And previously also they held back their money.
But equally they were given funds initially and we could not see anything tangible coming out of it. Remember, the allegations that came out from the level of judiciary that in as much as there's this funding, and I think it's technically also what we see with the counties today. It's okay, you've been given this, show us accountabilities, show us what you've done with this money and all that and everything. There were also some way of inappropriate expenditure, of course, within the judiciary level. So again, also puts to question.
Which is one thing. Allocation and accountability, those are two different things.
They go hand in hand.
Allocate, then put up accountability measures. But if you do not allocate, you put up an environment where there is lack, where people are hungry and then they are longing for anything that drops from whichever quarter. However you accuse them, you are the one who have stage managed that environment to make corruption thrive. And the moment corruption is thriving in that environment, you can never achieve any tangible justice.
Well, my panel is indirectly telling me that we are going to play the delay game, or justice delay game, and we are likely not to be getting justice in some of the numerous cases that we have as the people of Kenya, in as much as maybe they are probably not coming out direct. Quite a sad thing, and a clear indication that then we have a rotten criminal justice system as it stands today. I am not saying it, I'm just picking up from your words. And yes, I'm crossing over to the next topic of discussion, which is the referendum. And Right Honorable Raila Odinga says that we're only going to go for a referendum if we're going to go by what the BBI dictates, that we're still waiting for. Punguza Mizigo out here. Kalonzo Musyoka arguing that it's a hoax, and not just Kalonzo Musyoka, a couple of other people who have tried to study the documents, the Punguza Mizigo. We have had this discussion here before, but why is it then that it's taking a different turn? I mean, is this all for the sake of the common mwananchi, or clearly then we are being changed in a huge way, one that we would consider as the snake with about 7 heads. So it's clearly a snake at the end of the day. It's got 7 heads. It's going to hurt the common mwananchi. Whichever way it comes looking, it is going to hurt the common mwananchi. Whichever face it comes with, it's going to hurt you. Let's listen into what Kalonzo Musyoka had to say, and then we come get the sentiments of my panel.
Fedha zisije zikavinyiliwa kiwango kwamba mwananchi anateseka.
You succeeded to...
That is just it? Okay, that is just it. There you go. Kalonzo Musyoka, of course, over the weekend, coming out to say that we need to look into this punguza mizigo thing. It's not as good as it sounds like it has the biggest interest of the common mwananchi. Not forgetting what we saw with Gladys Bosch-Sholei presenting a bill that, of course, seeks to also top up to the number that we are looking forward to reduce. And according to her, it's, yes, punguza mizigo in an interesting way. Of course, if some of us have been lucky enough to go through the document, I hope my panel has, but even if it has not, I think it's important that we weigh in on this debate of the referendum that is still ongoing, that we also as Kenyans are hoping that would come and maybe bring in some level of changes, because the Constitution is the ultimate, of course, what we would use as the, marking scheme, or better yet, the guiding factor of basically what we do as a country. So a referendum could be good, but what is it that we're going to enshrine in the referendum that is good for the common man?
Linda, we're coming up now on the 10th anniversary of the promulgation of what was viewed
2010.
2010, on the 9th anniversary, rather. The Constitution that was promulgated on the 27th of August, 2010. And I think we're in a season of anniversaries now. I mean, we're now coming up on the 2nd anniversary of the abduction and murder of Chris Masundo, which then led into the August 8th botched elections, general elections of 2017. We've now got people debating in Parliament revenues and the like, none of whom are owning up to the fact that they're all getting their illegal house allowance payments into their accounts. Right. And they're not being asked about returning them. They're not being asked how do you justify it, but they are now being asked questions about determining significant issues of national security or national development. We don't know what's coming out of the BBI. It was gazetted on as of May 24th, 25th of 2018. Apparently there's a budget of 10.1 billion shillings has been expended or allocated to it. We're not entirely certain how much of that money comes from the United States, the United Kingdom, the EU, and other external donors who are always so happy to finance, to fund peace building and to fund free, fair, credible elections that never seem to happen. So we're looking at a constitution that has not been fully implemented, that you yourself have pointed out that Chapter 6, where that calls for integrity, seems to be not merely aspirational, but in fact just a dream, some kind of future dream, that people will say, yes, I've done wrong. I shouldn't be driving around in a $90,000 SUV. I could have used the one that my predecessor left behind. I heard a shocking figure last week from the head of the Private Security Sector Regulatory Authority, that apparently 35,000 police in this country are not assigned to do their core jobs. I always thought 7,000 or 8,000 had been diverted to cash in transit, guarding forex bureaus and banks, some VIP protection. It seems that possibly 1/3 of the police are not doing police duties, and yet, which is now the justification for arming private Ascaris, private guards. Okay, now I've said that I think the Third Way Alliance beat BBI to the punch. I think that their proposals, it's a raft of proposals that are populist.
Can I distract your line of thought just for a second to pick this phone call, and then we come back to you?
Certainly.
Good morning. Namba kutoka Bungoma.
Habari ya asubuhi sana Dinda. Habari zenu hapo katika studio my friend.
Salama sana, tunashukuru.
Safi sana. Dinda, wacha nikwambie kitu kimoja.
Ndio.
Hiyo kitu unasikia wanasema kupunguza mizigo.
Ndio.
Ni kitu hatari kabisa na ni kitu ambayo inataka kuangamiza ugatuzi.
Umepitia hiyo proposal yao? Umepitia hiyo proposal ya punguza mizigo?
Hiyo kitu ni kitu ya kuangamiza, ni njia ya kujificha tu, lakini ni kitu inaelekea kuangamiza ugatuzi.
Mbona hapo kwa hiyo proposal yao wamesema wanataka ku strengthen devolution, wanajaribu sana waone ugatuzi ikifanya kazi vizuri.
No, wakitumia hiyo kupunguza mzigo ni kuangamiza kukandamiza, lakini
Kwa
jambo la
sababu
maana
wata
ni
reduce, yeah.
Jambo la maana ni kukuza ugatuzi. Hilo itakuwa ni jambo la maana sana, lakini hii kupunguza mizigo ni njia ya kumaliza, ya kuondoa ugatuzi.
Yeah.
Haina faida yoyote, na mimi ningependekeza namna hii.
Ndio.
Kama tunataka kukuza ugatuzi, ugatuzi uanzie katika ngazi ya MCA. Wahakikishe wanajenga misingi bridges ya kuleta ugatuzi kuanzia kwa MCA. Hapo tutaenda mbele, lakini kusema kupunguza mizigo ni kumaliza ugatuzi, na hilo jambo haliwezekani, na mimi ninalipinga na sipendi.
Asante sana. Wacha tutasikia maoni ya analyst ambao wako hapa kwa nyumba, tusikie wanafikiria vipi kuhusu swala la ugatuzi. Let's cross over to you. He says that is the punguza mizigo aspect is just a way of trying to sort of choke devolution and see devolution not a success.
No, actually, no. It's not designed to choke devolution, except that the dueling referenda that we might be coming up with that could put paid to the 2010 Constitution may in fact choke devolution.
Right.
You see, much of the Third Way Alliance of proposals has to do with reducing the number of people, reducing the wage bill. You know, you can keep the same number of people and reduce their wages.
Yeah. That's also another option.
That's a very good option,
good
I think,
option,
because
really.
you don't need to amend a constitution that has not yet been fully implemented, either in letter or spirit. And we keep forgetting that there's a lot of legislation that has been enacted since the 27th of August 2010, subsidiary legislation that has been put into place to put in these independent commissions to operationalize changes of policies as expressed in that constitution. Much of that legislation may go right out the window sometime later this year or early next year, simply because there are people who wish to change the basic structure of government. And what you're seeing now, for example, is there is an attack on devolution, it seems, by denying revenue. And then we get all hooked up in questions of, well, how are the governors spending money? And the only way to stop them from spending money inappropriately is to, what? Stop devolution?
No, that's
we have not devolved corruption to 47 counties. That is a misnomer. The grand corruption is taking place in the center. But we also seem to have a problem where devolved functions are also being made part and parcel of a Big Four legacy.
Yeah, so
and it has been pointed out that the national government's wage bill, that its spending, its expenditures, have not been reduced concomitantly with the standing up of 47 county governments and with their bureaucracies. That there may be people, I'm not sure how we get all these skilled people to be working in parallel chains of command, but we seem to have something. You know, I find that it's very disturbing to keep asking people to wait for this BBI task force to produce whatever is going to come out of it.